Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Press Secretary, and good morning to all of our media representatives and to all of our listeners and viewers, home and abroad. Good morning to you. I did hear from my head of corporate communications that some of you were looking for me. I had indicated to her last night that I would propose a media availability session at 11. But when I heard this morning that the Prime Minister would be having a short press conference, I thought it, and I knew he also has his cabinet, I thought it would be efficient for yourselves and myself if I just came in at the end of his press conference. So I want to thank you for working with us in that regard. Last Friday, I received a call from the Chairman of the Monetary Council, the Honorable Victor Banks, Chief Minister of Anguilla, advising me of the Council's decision to appoint me as the next Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. I thanked him for the confidence reposed in me by the members of the Monetary Council. Only yesterday I was speaking to a professor of mine from the University of the West Indies. I called him to thank him for his role in shaping me professionally. And he said to me, you know, I had at least 4 students in the field. So I laughed and I said, you could not lose. He said, I could not lose, but I'm very glad that you have been appointed. I think it's the right choice. But he also went on to say that he was proud of the fact that the ECCB or ECS could put forward such a strong field of candidates for the position of governor. And I'm grateful that I have been asked to assume the leadership of the bank at this particular time. I want to express my profound gratitude to Sir Dwight Venner for his colossal contribution, not just to the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank over his 26 years as governor, a record which I do not believe will ever be broken, but his yeoman service, his noble service, his profound love, passion for the people of our region, which has driven him over all these years. I have benefited from the leadership of Sir Dwight. I have, in a manner of speaking, sat at his feet as a financial secretary, as a member of the board, and I've learned much from him. And so I'm indebted to him for not just his contribution to the region, first and foremost, but also for his contribution to my own personal and professional development. So I want to thank Sir Dwight for that and to extend my very best wishes to him in his well-deserved retirement. I must tell you that the last 72 hours have been incredible, for want of a better word. I could not imagine the outpouring of support that I have received since this announcement. Literally hundreds of calls, emails, texts have come in, and I'm not counting Facebook because I'm not yet on Facebook. I have heard of the Facebook messages, but I have not seen them. But suffice it to say, Grenadians, I've heard from Grenadians, Grenadians all walks of life, and that has been deeply humbling and at the same time inspiring. And I will confess to you, on a few occasions in the last 72 hours, I've gotten a little emotional. That's between two of us, or between us. It's been very, very touching, very, very touching. Clearly, people feel elated that a son of the soil has been selected to lead this very important institution. And I want to say that as a born and bred Grenadian, homegrown, I take great pride in the fact that this country birthed me and that shaped me and made me who I am today. My parents, my dad and mom, and of course, my mom taught me. She also is my pastor, so she's a very special person. I am deeply, deeply grateful to her and my family, all of my family, my many siblings, my church family, my teachers, my colleagues across the public service, but especially in the Ministry of Finance, the Prime Minister, who almost 20 years ago saw something in me and asked me to step up and to take additional responsibilities. I am not sure exactly what he saw, but he saw something. And I'm grateful to God that I have been able to validate that confidence and trust over the years. But Grenada, I am one of you. I am yours. You shaped me. And therefore, I feel eternally grateful to this country, the land of my birth, for the upbringing that I've had, and of course, for the outpouring of support that I've received since the announcement of the decision. So, those are my initial comments. There are many, many people to thank. It is not for me to attempt to do that now, but suffice to say, from the very bottom of my heart, I do thank everyone, everyone. I do have a special place for my colleagues in the Ministry of Finance. I've been there for the last, 22 years, and they're very special people to me. The bonds of friendship, the bonds of love that we have for each other, having worked together for so long and having gone through adversity together and been in the trenches, so to speak, those are deep and strong and cannot be broken. So I do have a special place in my heart for the colleagues at the Ministry of Finance. But my dear wife has been a true rock, and she is the glue that holds our family unit together. So to my dear wife, Charmaine, I do really wish to again express publicly, I tell her that all the time, but publicly, how much I love her and how much I appreciate the support that she's given me over these many years. It has not been easy working in this environment, traveling regularly, and doing all the things that I expected of the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance, and the additional responsibility that I've had regionally. But she has been by my side all along through it all, and I thank God for her every day. So, on that note, those are my opening remarks. If you have any particular questions, then I'll be happy to try to assist you with those. Thank you.
Right, Timmy. I'm going to go first. Congratulations. Really, it's a big moment for you and for Grenada. And I think most of us knew that maybe over the last 15, 20 years, you were being prepared for this role today. You were being like a heavyweight in a corner with people around, good people around you. We want to know some of the people who would have molded you, given you that confidence, saying that, yes, Timmy, you've got it, you can go all the way, and we're going to bring you until this day has arrived. Yes, tell us about some of the people who have done that. And also, Timmy, we've seen the OECS over the last 10, 15 years also. We've seen a couple countries sometimes, Grenada, for example, 3.5% last year. This year, 2% last year. We have not seen that continuous growth throughout the region. It's kind of early, but what kind of policies can maybe you think from the top that can spur economic growth and development, whereby we see not Grenada or Dominica or St. Vincent, but the whole region moving together in unison, getting stronger and more economically viable. Thank you so much, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Trevor. Thank you for your kind words. And I start with a heavyweight comment. As a former light heavyweight champion. You welter. Oh, you are welter? You are welter now. I am welter now. Trevor, as you know, was a national champion in boxing. He, of course, represented Grenada at cricket as well. When I was in primary school, I recall with fondness, Trevor, your boxing exploits. And I would attempt to box. And when I was boxing, I was thinking about Trevor. And very much. And then, of course, there was Bunny later on. But so, Trevor, thanks very much. You inspired me as a primary school student, whether you knew that or not, when you were in your boxing days. There are a lot of people, and it's going to be, exceptionally difficult for me to try to single out. Clearly, my parents, both, they taught me the values very early. My mom and dad, both are now retired public servants. So, Algin and Antoine are still Antoine. They are the custodians, the ones who set me on the right path. Not just in terms of my, spiritually first of all, in terms of values, but also in terms of education. So I learned very early love for God, love for learning, and love for people. Those are three things they taught me from early. But I can go through and call any number of teachers. I won't do that. At GBSS, Mr. Ashby was a principal there. So he had played a big role, and there are many, many teachers at GBSS. I wouldn't want to start there. Then, of course, at university levels. But along the way, so many people have touched me, so many people. One of the things that, as I look back, I was involved in, at GBSS, I was head boy of the school. So I had some leadership training or experience there at National College, IFA. I was the president of the Student Council. And in every case, I was working with teams. When I went to the University of the West Indies, I was the president of the University and Colleges Christian Fellowship. Again, a team. So a lot of these people have shaped me in some way or fashion. They've helped me to become a better leader, a better person. They know who they are. Many of them have reached out to me in the last 72 hours, but it's obviously I couldn't call the names. University, several professors, I spoke to a couple of them yesterday in Barbados. Then at the regional level, Sir Dwight stands out. He's been a mentor. I've worked with him over a period of time, and that's why I mentioned him at the beginning. But there were other people in the Ministry of Finance, whether it's Nolan Murray, Lennox Andrews, Anthony Boson, of course, Prime Minister Mitchell. I could go on, who shaped me and gave me I worked with Senator Burke, the former Minister of Finance, and from every Minister of Finance, I learned something. I worked with them, and in the process, I adapted to their styles, but I also learned something from these men. So, I've worked with Minister Boson as Minister of Finance, Senator Burke, now Senator Burke as Minister of Finance, Dr. Mitchell as Minister of Finance, and many, many other colleagues across the public service. So, I worked with Oliver, Minister Joseph. In fact, it's interesting because there was a time when he reported to me. I was PS then, he was Director of Trade. Then he became a PS. We were obviously contemporaries in that sense. And now I report to him. He is my Minister for Economic Development. And that's the beauty of life, But there are many, many people. But then when I look in the Ministry of Finance today, Mike Sylvester, Ambrose Obike, Kim Frederick, Petra Charles Joseph, Pauline Peters, the list goes on and on of people who I have worked with very closely, my secretaries, and I've had several. The list is a long one. So I want to thank all of them. And as I said, it's too numerous to mention, but they've all helped. Now, on the question of what can we do in the region, while I do not propose to go into that now, one of the things that I did discuss with the Monetary Council when I was interviewed on the 28th of December is a program of action for the currency union along the priorities. And I have a clear vision for where I'd like to see the bank go and the region go. I know many people share that vision, and one of the tasks as governor will be to ensure that that vision is not only shared but truly owned by not just the management and staff of the bank, but by obviously the council, it's full endorsement, the board, and then the wider region, the citizens. And then we, of course, roll it out together. And there are many, many experiences in Grenada that will serve me well in that regard. So while I will not go into specifics today, that will come in time. But I've thought a lot about these issues, and I will be working with teams. I must tell you, since the announcement, I've had so many calls, home and abroad, across the region, outside, including heads of some of the regional institutions, and they've all expressed not just congratulations, but the anticipation that we'll work together to do some good things for our region. I do know a lot of the key players across the region. I know most of the governors of the central banks across the region. So I'm really looking forward to working with my colleagues to make our region better and the great place that we all know it has the potential to be.
Good morning, sir. Congratulations to you. What would you say might be one of, I know you just mentioned some of the things that you want to do, but what would you say might be one of your very first priorities as governor of the ECCB? Because I'm sure from the time you received the call, your mind would have already started working.
Thanks, Les. Long before. I'm a member of the board, so, those are issues I've been thinking about. Obviously, the first job as a governor is to cast a vision and give direction to the bank. So that is going to be the first task. And there are ways that will be done at the level, working with the Monetary Council, to whom I report directly, the highest decision-making body of the bank, the board, The governor chairs the board. But of course, you work with the board on certain policy issues, and then the management and staff. So yes, setting out that vision, and I have articulated that vision to the Monetary Council. I would, of course, have further discussions, and that will be refined and made or perfected, and then it will be for us to begin to implement. That's why I spoke about a program of action. So clearly, there are several issues facing our region, but the top three priorities are financial stability, fiscal and sustainability, and growth, competitiveness, and employment. Those are the top three in my humble opinion. So obviously we're going to be working very much on these three top priorities. There are other things. But you will see and hear as we roll those out in due course.
And based on the three that you've just outlined, how do you see personally your appointment as further contributing to a robust ECCB system?
Well, before I answer that, let me just clarify or correct Trevor when he was speaking about growth earlier. Just to say that in terms of the Grenadian economy, the preliminary numbers was 2014 5.7%, 2015 5.1%, 2013 I think it was 4.8% or thereabouts. So or a little less. But the economy has been growing on average by 4.5% over the last 3 years, which is quite strong, especially in the context of a homegrown adjustment program. Quite strong. And we anticipate that the economy will have strong growth again in 2016. The question was in terms of, Les, your question?
Oh, yes. How do you see your appointment as the ECCB governor further contributing to a robust ECCB banking system?
Well, certainly financial stability is a very important issue. It's a top priority. We have a plan of action. We have a strategy. And it will be my job to coordinate and ensure that that strategy is implemented in a timely fashion. The core elements of the strategy are already agreed upon by the Monetary Council, and they have begun to be implemented. I think you are aware of the action in Antigua recently to address a particular bank there, and that has gone well. And of course, we will continue to work on these issues together. So one of the things I bring is not just the experience in finance and banking, but also development. Because at the end of the day, the central bank exists for development. If you look at the ECCB agreement, if you look at the articles, the purposes of the bank, one of the purposes is growth and development. So to what end, you ask? Why does the central bank regulate commercial banks? To what end? It is not financial stability, clearly, but financial stability is to an end. That end is growth and development. I have a very firm and strong grounding in development, both by training and by experience. So that is something, that's part of my value proposition, if you will, to the bank as a new governor. But those details will come in due course, I'm sure.
Okay, so my final two questions. Have you had the chance yet to speak with Sir Dwight? I mean, via telephone, of course.
We will speak soon. We spoke recently, maybe a week or two ago, and I anticipate that we'll be speaking very soon, sometime this week. But Sir Dwight, is somebody I hold high, very high, and I know there's a mutual respect there, and I look forward to. When we spoke, and he told me he's looking forward to his books and his library and so on, and I know he enjoys those things. I said, good, but I'm sure there'll be some other requests and demands, and he understands that. But he deserves all the rest and retirement he wants. I mean, he's worked so hard for so long that he truly deserves that. But Sir Dwight and I will speak soon, I'm sure.
Thank you. And my final question. You've been a PS for about 14 or so years. And obviously, you've formed some very strong bonds with the people that you work with. You've called a number of names. But personally, as an individual, how do you feel? I mean, this is very good that you've been appointed. But how do you feel having to leave this, what you can call a family environment, after the bonds that have been formed, going into a new environment? Yes,
so there are mixed feelings. And those were felt as an experience as early as Friday when the news broke, when I advised our management team of the decision. Obviously, there's great joy in the ministry for me at a personal level, but obviously a bit of sadness as well. So I feel the same way, but I will tell you, I take great pride. It is deeply satisfying to me to see a number of my colleagues, those several colleagues who have come into the system, into the ministry, and come up. Many of them I recruited, I've worked with, I've mentored, I've coached, and who have been by my side throughout. And whatever we've achieved, I could not have achieved without them. So on one hand, while I'm sad about leaving them, in the specific sense of being in the ministry as PS, I'm deeply satisfied and very gratified about the fact that I'm handing over to capable people, men and women, who I know will keep it going. And I expect them to do even better than I did. And why not? Right? So on that level, there's a lot of joy personally. They've grown up professionally and personally. I've seen them grow over the years, and I feel good about that. I feel good about them.
Sir Dwight was apparently standing in your corner when he made his last statement that the sub-region seems to need new blood and fresh ideas, and apparently he was thinking in terms of youth and experience, seeing that he had 26 years. This new blood, fresh ideas, is supposed to come with a vision as it relates to the sub-region and the global outlook. How you, as economists, how you predict that for the sub-region, with the vision that you have in mind?
Well, when I think of a vision, I think of what could be and should be. And I am very clear about what our region can achieve and ought to achieve together. And that's a very important issue, together. So that it is clear to me we will do better and go faster if we are doing a number of things together. And one of the challenges I will have is to work with everybody, all 8 members, to move us along together as fast as possible in that direction. I want to avoid making too many statements at this point in time. I do want to sit with the management of the bank and share with them some of that vision. And I'd rather do that before I start telling the public. And I just think protocol-wise, it's important for me. I'll be working with that team, and I think it's important for them to hear from me early and for me to hear from them before I give too much more on that. But as I said, I did have extensive discussions at the level of the Monetary Council on some of these issues and ideas that I have for the bank. And they have now given me a mandate, basically, to go in and to begin to bring these into fruition. So, more will come in due course.
Okay, Timmy, just want to say congrats again. I want to keep it domestic, though. You presided over a Ministry of Finance, along with the Prime Minister, in a structural adjustment program that you said, just mentioned the progress it has made in terms of the economic gains, in terms of the growth in the economy. And the Prime Minister said earlier that it's not so much a loss that you're going, but it's a gain because you'll still be advising the governments of the region as you would advise Grenada. What say you in terms of leaving at this point with the IMF program going so good in terms of economic recovery for Grenada? Speak to this issue in terms of your confidence that this progress will continue.
I'm very, very confident. You see, the homegrown program is homegrown. Supported by the IMF, yes, but it is homegrown. It is fully entrenched in the country. We went on a very unique path when we engaged our social partners on the program. And we have a unique arrangement where we have a homegrown program monitoring committee, excuse me, which consists of all the social partners plus the central bank. So if nothing else, the central bank will be watching very closely. I say no more on that. But I have no doubt in my mind that Grenadians who made sacrifices will ensure that the program stays on track and that we secure the gains, protect the gains of the program. And if you look at this 2016 budget statement, one of the things in the chapter was protecting our gains through the various things, like the fiscal responsibility legislation, like the stronger oversight of statutory bodies, just to name two things. So I have no doubt about that. This is bigger than me, and the infrastructure in the Ministry of Finance is there. For example, we do daily reporting on revenues. That continues. That works like clockwork. We do monthly reporting, not just to the IMF, but of course we post publicly on our website what we're doing. Those will continue. And in fact, I expect they will continue after the program is over, because that's a level of transparency which we have embraced, and I do not see us rolling that back or walking that back. So I am very confident about that, but of course I will also have a watchful eye from my new vantage point. And since I'm so vested and invested in this enterprise, you could be certain that I will continue to provide whatever support I can.
All right, good morning. Mr. Antoine, first of all, congratulations personally and on behalf of the Grenada Broadcasting Network. I have a question as it relates to the Clico-Baco issue. I know that as chairman of the core committee,
yes,
now with your new position, would that be considered a blow to that committee? And even in terms of, because we all know that your position as governor is very influential, and would you be able to use that influence to, call for some action for Grenada and the policyholders here?
Right. So thank you, Colin. Clearly, I will probably not continue to chair that committee. And I've already got some questions over the weekend on that issue, so I'm applying my mind to that. But surely, I'm very, very familiar with the issues, seeds of the issues and the challenges in that regard. And from my new role, will, of course, want to do all I can. It is also a financial stability issue in part. Non-bank, yes, but it touches and concerns financial stability and even economic activity. So from that perspective, I certainly will continue to be supportive of that agenda. That's a very important issue. And I must tell you, just so that you know, one of the calls I had on Friday, conference calls, was with the judicial managers of British American. They all were in a meeting and they asked me to call in to join them. And you remember the plan of arrangement law that was passed in September? That law has now been passed in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and in Antigua and Barbuda. I anticipate that it will be passed shortly in some of the other countries. Once that law is passed, and then it has to be passed in the Bahamas as well, some months after that, there will be a further payout for British American policyholders. So clearly, this year there's going to be some positive developments. That's all I would say. And then, of course, I'm aware of the initiative, the private initiative by the Policyholders Association, that's BICO and CLICO, which we were supportive of. And clearly, we want to see that go forward and get results.
Good morning, PS. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
My question to you is, we had Sir Dwight retiring after 26 years, but the last 2 years of his service were a 2-year contract. Are you also on contract?
Just to be clear, I think his last tenure was a 3-year contract. I think the governor typically goes on a 5-year contract, so that's my expectation.
And you're taking up that position in shortly, a couple of months ago, the region approved regional legislation with regard to the new roles of the bank. What say you on some of those new initiatives that I think everybody, we had the law, it was approved by all our parliaments. What say you on those initiatives that the new legislation calls for?
Well, they're very important. To regulate banks, you need to ensure that you have modern, up-to-date legislation, and that is what we now have. And so, in fact, that passage of legislation across the currency union is enabling us now to proceed with the resolution strategy, which I referred to earlier. So we will be meeting the bankers and so on as we go forward with the implementation. I also know that there are some concerns about some aspects, So as we engage with the bankers associations across the region, I'm sure we'll be able to discuss those and go forward with some things that work. And as you implement legislation, you will find areas that work well and areas that do not work as well or not so well. And then, of course, it would be appropriate to make those adjustments. So in sum, the new Banking Act is a very important development for the regulation of banks and for financial stability. It takes us into the modern age, given the challenges and the imperatives in the sector. And, of course, I'll be working with all of the bankers and the associations as we go forward.
Any other questions?